Yo guys, it's your boy Harmon here and welcome to today's video. Now today we'll be discussing about the New Zealand versus Pakistan cricket game, which has ended by a 47-run victory to New Zealand. It was a really good team performance today and good individual performances such as Trent Boult with a hat-trick, Lockie Ferguson taking 3 wickets, Ross Taylor making 80 runs and Tom Latham making 68 runs. I think the Tom Latham and Ross Taylor partnership really helped New Zealand to make a score of 266 runs, and Pakistan couldn't make that. They were 219 runs they made all out as well. They fell short, which is I think a good thing since I'm a New Zealand supporter, and it's good for New Zealand so they can boost up their overseas confidence because they're really good at home, but overseas they do choke a lot as well, such as the 2015 World Cup. Every game they played in New Zealand, they all won. But then in the finals, when they had to go to Australia, they did unfortunately choke and lost the finals. But though it was a good team performance today by New Zealand. Good fielding. I think fielding was the really good point today because we took some good catches like players from Kane Williamson, Colin de Grandhomme, and Ross Taylor. Fielding did make a difference in this game. That's why we didn't concede many boundaries, and that's why they couldn't make 267 runs, Pakistan. But I think as the team progresses, I think New Zealand can change a few individuals in the lineup, as they can change because to strengthen up the squad, because there are a few players who I think needs to be in instead of being in the New Zealand A squad. So a few players that need to be in such. So we'll go from the opening. There's George Walker, who replaced Martin Guptill due to injury and is not continuing, or he hasn't started doing the Pakistan tour. So George Walker, he's a really fine player. He's good. He's really talented as well. But today he couldn't show that talent, and he couldn't make the runs. Unfortunately, he made 1 run and got out. But I kind of disagree with the decision to put George Walker in with Colin Munro. Since they're both left-handers, I think Glenn Phillips should have replaced George Walker, since it would have been a right-hander and a left-hander playing and opening, because Martin Guptill, right-hander, you've played with that same kind of tactics with a right-hander, left-hander. You shouldn't change it and go with left-hand, left-hand. I think, you should stick to the same right-hand, left-hand combination, not change it up. Because, as you can see, George Walker, he only made 1 run, and because for the bowlers, they can use the same sort of bowling tactics on the batsmen for left-handers, when if you're rotating the strike with a right-hander and then a left-hander coming up, the bowler has to change his bowling tactics, and it can make a big difference as well in the game. So we'll talk about Ross Taylor, who made 80 runs, a really crucial 80 runs for New Zealand and for Ross Taylor, because without Ross Taylor, I think we wouldn't have won that game, because Ross Taylor, he showed his experience as well there, and he showed that if you take your time in the game, you can definitely make a good runs and help your team win the game. And as you know, he did make 80 runs from 120 balls from deliveries, so I think that was really good performance there from Ross Taylor. But since Ross Taylor is a 34-year-old, he needs to be replaced, and next year is going to be his last World Cup for New Zealand. Well, that's what I'm thinking, and he will be his last series next year as well for New Zealand, and obviously he will retire maybe at the age of 35. I don't think he will continue, so obviously he's going to be replaced. And New Zealand, when they replace Ross Taylor for odd games, they do put Mark Chapman in. And Mark Chapman, he is a really good player. He's really talented, really powerful player too when he plays for Auckland. But he's played for New Zealand more than like 5 games now, and he hasn't got that momentum or that start yet, as we see when he plays for Auckland Aces. So I'm pretty sure the best score he has made for New Zealand is 8 runs, and he's not showing his talent, and I don't think Mark Chapman then he should be playing for New Zealand at the number 4 position, because New Zealand have given him many chances to prove himself that he can play at the number 4 position and take over Ross Taylor's position. But he hasn't been doing that. So I think instead of using Mark Chapman to replace him, I think we should use Tom Bruce, because New Zealand at number 5 and 6 already have left-handers. So why don't you bring a right-hander, Tom Bruce, who's powerful, and he plays like a Ross Taylor kind of thing. He takes his time, his pace, and then he makes good runs, which will help the team. So I think you should use a right-hander instead of another left-hander who's not making as much runs. And Tom Bruce, he was in the T20 place for New Zealand, but Mark Chapman, somehow he did take his position, and Mark Chapman hasn't been doing well in the T20 spot as well. So I think Tom Bruce will be a good addition, or another player like Will Young, who's more of a player which will just take his time, more of a classical player, which is kind of needed. Okay, so now we'll go down to the middle order, such as Henry Nicholls and Colin de Grandhomme. Henry Nicholls is a good player. Unfortunately, the first ball he played, he didn't make any runs. He got out for 0. But no complaints to him, because he's actually a really consistent player. And he's a good player, and he's like really powerful, and he's really like, he takes his time as well if needed as well in the game. But we need to talk about Colin de Grandhomme. For me, he's not a player I prefer as the all-rounder. Okay, he is big, he is powerful, but sometimes he's not consistent. He's not the player for me who I would have as my all-rounder, or as my number 7 or my number 6. So I would probably go with someone else, someone like Corey Anderson or Jimmy Neesham, who can replace Colin de Grandhomme in that position, because Colin de Grandhomme, in every game, such as today, he hasn't made any runs. He's made below 10 runs, and according to ICC, his average in ODI batting is 35 runs, which I actually disagree with that. I think it should be below 10, or it's been a little bit nicer, below 15. But his bowling is not that great. It's it's just average. But today he did bowl really well. But if he contributed a little bit with the bat, I think we would have won by a little bit more runs, and we would have scored at least 280, which would have been nice. That's to be said to Henry Nicholls. Sometimes his consistency can go away, and he can, some games make 10, below 10s as well. But there's a lot of games where he has won us the match, and he's performed really well and performed at his best as well. Where for me, at Colin de Grandhomme, he's not that kind of player, which I prefer to have him in the team. Now, if we look at the bowling, we had Ish Sodhi, Trent Boult, Tim Southee, and Lockie Ferguson. Now, Lockie Ferguson has improved in his bowling a lot, on better than he has played in the previous matches for New Zealand. He has played really well in this game with the 3 wickets for 36 runs as well in 9.2 overs. As a player, he has improved a lot. I remember in this first game he played for New Zealand, he took 1 wicket for 70 runs, which is a lot of runs as well, conceded by Lockie Ferguson. But, he, in the beginning when he started playing for New Zealand, we obviously chose Lockie Ferguson because of his pace, or because he's throwing the ball at 150 plus, but his accuracy and line and length of the bowling wasn't too good, and he was actually conceding a lot of runs. But he was taking wickets because of his pace and bounce he gets. But I think now we see him, he's getting a lot of pace, and he's getting more accurate in his bowling as well, which is helping New Zealand and is helping his selection for the next year World Cup as well, which is coming up next year. But let's talk about Ish Sodhi. He did take 1 wicket, which is kind of a controversial wicket, because the ball, it didn't hit the bat, and New Zealand appealed for it, and they give it an out when the ball didn't really hit the bat, and it was kind of controversial, but as Empire's Call, and Pakistan didn't have any reviews left afterwards as well. But I think Ish Sodhi needs more regular game time as well, and he will improve as a player, and he will become a good leg spinner for New Zealand. And he is in some games performing well. The T20s he was a little bit off, but I think in this one he was off too. But I think in the next game he will improve as a player as well. So if we talk about Trent Boult, no discussions. He did give away quite a lot of runs, but he did take a hat-trick, which helped New Zealand actually to win the game. He got 2 players out for 0 and 1 player out for 1. And those players he got out, they are really capable of scoring big runs. Their average is 25 plus, which is actually quite a lot of runs as well. So he did well there, but a little bit more accurate would have been nice today. But Tim Southee, unfortunately, he's losing his charm. He was a really good bowler, in the last World Cup. He did good, 7 for 34. But now, he's not getting the swing as he wanted as well, because Trent Boult and Tim Southee rely on the ball because the ball has swing and it's more shiny. That's why. But when the ball gets old, Trent Boult is fine because he has pace. Tim Southee, he doesn't have the pace that we want, and since he's a little bit slow, he does get smashed quite a lot as well, so it is kind of bad. I think Tim Southee, if he was going to be replaced, he would be replaced by a player like Adam Milne or some other player like Mitchell McClenaghan, who are younger as well, because Tim Southee, he is turning 30 or is 30, and Adam Milne is 25, and he's did well in the T20 series too, Adam Milne, but I think if they had to choose, they would put Adam Milne in instead of Tim Southee, just to strengthen up the team and maybe get more pace in bowling as well. So okay guys, so that's going to be it for this video. Please leave a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe to my channel if you're new, and I'll see you next time. Peace.